Gentlemen, welcome to the Front Row Dad podcast. While it's common to hear men say, family first, most guys are working long hours and finding it really difficult to juggle all the priorities. On this show, you're going to hear unscripted conversations with guys who are as committed to winning at home as they are to winning at work. Each week, we're going to share a new conversation digging into the strengths and the struggles of guys just like you and me to help us level up our dad game, strengthen our marriage, succeed in business, and stay healthy along the way. If you're new to the show, I'm John Broman, married to the free spirit known as Tatiana, father of 2 boys, Tiger and Ocean, and living in Austin, Texas. Let's get right into our next conversation. All right, Front Row Dads, I'm here with the Espegard family, Dane and Brooke. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Thank you.
So I am thrilled to be having this conversation today because I haven't heard about the road trip yet in the Dream Stream. And I want to just launch right into it, man. Tell me about the road trip, guys. How did this begin? Actually, go back to the genesis, if you will. We'll get to the good stuff about or maybe it's not even just the good stuff, but I want to get to the trip in a minute. Tell us about where this began. Where did the dream begin? And then walk us through the journey.
So we've always liked to travel. And so that's always been a big part of our relationship and our family. And I think where it started was we were, like most people, trying to figure out if we could go camping last summer, unless it started before that.
I don't know where you're going with this.
We were looking for a camper rental, and we couldn't find any anywhere. But through the process of searching for something to rent, Brooke goes, I'm going to buy an Airstream. And I said, what are you going to do? She goes, I want to buy a camper and I want to renovate it. And I said, first off, we don't know anything about camping. I've never pulled a trailer. I don't think our cars can pull a trailer. And we also have never renovated something. So this sounds like maybe a lot of bad idea.
All good points.
And so like she normally does, she's like, yeah, but I really want to do it. And she sold me on showing me how much campers rent for. She's like, so when it's done, we can, use this as an investment. So, it doesn't take her long. It was like a week later, she had a list of every single Airstream for sale in the United States and how much they're renting for. And she went and bought a 1976 Airstream and started
That's amazing. Was it hard to find it, Brooke?
No. I am really good at when I put my mind to something, I will find it easily. I think I found that one maybe within a night or two.
No way.
But a lot of so I did a lot of research too on just even what to look for, because to his point, we have never renovated or owned a camper or rented a camper, or ever been in a camper. So I did a lot of YouTubing on what to look for, and found it and came home with it. I pulled it. Also, to his point, our car could not really pull it. So I was going 40 max on the interstate pulling this thing. I was like, I'm just going to do it. And we got super lucky. Ours was in really great shape. Yeah. Not that it mattered because I gutted the whole thing anyway.
You did.
So we went through the whole process. I did the gutting myself, which was super satisfying. And then
you taking out all your frustration. Yeah. Did you go with a bat and demo this thing? I have
a video of myself yanking part of it out. And just once I got it, I was arms up.
It was perfect. Gave us an outlet though. We'd have a tough conversation, and her response now would just be I'm going to the camper.
I'm going to go work on the camper. I mean, people pay to do that, right? In the rooms where you go in and break everything. Yeah. That's so great.
Yeah. So then we needed somewhere to take it. And this was a great opportunity, and Dane needed it.
Yeah. So,
we all needed it
with COVID and everything. This was the longest, I guess, period of time that we hadn't had real vacation. So we decided on the dates and said, we're going to go and do this for, I think it ended up being 3.5 weeks. And it was awesome. Yeah. The trip was awesome. On the drive, the first drive, I had the podcast for the RV one.
The RV podcast.
Yeah. I was don't listen to it.
Well, it was perfect. It was perfect because I was listening to it on the road. So I was okay. And here's what to expect. And here's, be open to it. But we had little issues, but there was nothing massive.
Nothing major.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it was.
Hey, props to you, Brooke.
Thanks. We were in the mindset of we're going to be on the road for 3 weeks. We have no idea what we're doing. something is bound to happen.
Yeah.
So then when the little things did, we were like, okay, that's all right.
I think it was long enough too that when something happened, I'm like, whatever. It wasn't like a 1 week trip where if something happened, it was like, oh, here's 2 days.
Yeah.
Right. We've got enough time to kind of go with the flow.
Yeah.
Talk me through a little bit of the dreaming process here. So, Brooke, walk me through maybe your line of thinking when it comes to dreaming about things. How do you envision? How do you pull the power of possibility into the present moment to do things with it? Because you just said it. It was like, I know there's a lot that happened in between. Like, I got a vision for this Airstream, went and found it, got it, and then we're on a road trip for 3 weeks. It's like, there's a lot in there, and there's so many questions that I want to ask, but I know that one of the things that you both are passionate about, and Dane, you've got a book coming out about the dream machine, and this is something you teach, and it's a business thing. But where I became really fascinated with this also is how it relates to your family brand, how you guys incorporate this into your family, and what does dreaming really look like? Because it's so beautiful to see you guys take that dream and do something with it. And then when I was seeing the pictures, I was like, I remember hearing about this, and now it's actually happening. So try to go back, and if you can, dissect a little bit, Brooke, and I'll go to you first. And then Dane, I'd love to get your take is, what do you think happens when it comes to dreaming? What is your process there?
Yeah, I laugh because Dane tends to be the more logical of us two. There's not much of a process. When I get an idea or a vision or a dream, I just start. And then he says, wait, like maybe let's research this a little bit. But when it comes to our family, especially, I just remember when we were pregnant with our first daughter, Elin. And at that point, we were traveling a lot as a couple, and people would say, oh, your traveling days are done. And all this fun that you're having, that's going to be over. And we were like, I don't think it is. And so
live it up. That's what they're.
Yeah. And I understand what was going on, and they all love us and care about us. But at the same time, I was like, we're going to do it our way. And it might not work. Like, we might try this and it's a total fail and it doesn't work for our family. But what if it does? Then we have kids that we're traveling the world with. And so at that point, we really started seeking out people who are doing things differently. And I think that was the one thing that stands out to me that has shifted our whole idea of how we do our family is, if we have an idea, we might do a little bit of research, but we're going to try it. And if it doesn't work, that's okay. But if it does, like, how amazing, or what a great experience. So when we were talking about like the Airstream, we don't know what we're doing for schools at this point. We're trying some stuff out, but one of the ideas is we might homeschool in the future. And so we're talking about, well, how cool would it be if we did some road schooling? And, we started teaching about, I don't know, Abraham Lincoln. And then we went to Mount Rushmore, or we actually gave them some real life experience. And so it just kind of started as a seed, and then it was a what if, and then let's try it. And if it works, amazing. If it doesn't, that's okay too. And there's really no failing with the dream stuff.
Yeah.
Which I think with my background was a huge thing to overcome, was you can't fail at this.
Right.
And I don't want the girls to grow up thinking they can't try things for fear of failure.
That's so cool. That's excellent. And I love tying in the themes. I love, like, before you go visit something, you read about it, talk about it. That's just the best. And I think the idea of traveling with kids is incredible. So if somebody is fortunate enough to be in a position to do that, or has the dream big enough that will force them to go figure out how to do it. I love that, the dream to pull them forward. Dane, how about for you, man? How has the dream process at work helped inform your family? How do you talk about it? Is it the same way? Is it a different way? Like, how are you talking about it with your girls? What's your take on dreams and the family?
Yeah. So the dream stuff for us really started when we both were moving to the Twin Cities in 2012. It was like, that's the time I was identifying the new culture I wanted for my organization, and the whole principle of, live life out loud. as a leadership principle, I think has always been important to me. So the dreams concept in the work atmosphere for me, I knew that we would need to do it at home for it to stick and actually, get some traction. So 2012, the fall of 2012, we were both getting ready to move to the Twin Cities, and we did our first, I don't even know what you call it, but like end of year review. I don't know if we called it that then, but New Year's Eve, we had worked on our dreams lists, and we went to the Guthrie, I think, in the Twin Cities, and shared our entire dreams lists. And we were dating at the time, and then we planned out 2013. So we each kind of selected, I don't even know what it was, 10, 15 things that we wanted to try and get done on our dreams list in 2013. And then we started booking things right there. And so that was kind of when it started. And then I was constantly talking about it at work. We were doing things at home with that principle. And then it's gotten a lot of legs at work. At home, it's just kind of part of our regular vocabulary at this point. So, every year there's certain things, some years it might be 5 things that we get on our list, but they're bigger things. And some years it's 10 things. And now it's not as much we have to check something off our list, but it's just the part of our relationship that is centered around like, well, hey, anything is possible. And if you really want to do it, then we should explore what it would take for us to do that. I think the last time that we spoke, we were talking about when we went to California, and Brooke was like, yeah, you know what? I think it'd be really cool if we brought the horse with, right? And I was like, wait, what? No, horses don't go on vacation with you. Well. And just the idea of thinking differently instead of the logical part of me being like, that makes no sense. Why would we do that? She challenged, when she puts that out there, it's almost a challenge to me of like, logic has a purpose in this conversation, but what should be first in our relationship is the support of, okay, if that's important, how can we try and make that happen?
That's right.
Through that conversation, logic does come in for Brooklyn also. It's just not our first go-to. As we have conversations, if it still is a thing after we do research, then it's, hey, we should probably do it if it's that important to you.
And it's interesting how the universe brings, when Dane says that's crazy, he runs into an older gentleman who traveled for 10 years with his wife and horses, and they're on the road full time. And he had these conversations that...
One of the days at the campground, I took our dog to the dog park at the campground, and I just so happened to meet another couple that have 2 golden retrievers, and they're an old couple from Texas. And so we just start talking, and he walks back past our camper, and he's like, and you know about horses? And I'm like, God, because she wasn't part of the first part of the conversation. He's like, we bought a semi and then pulled a luxury horse trailer. I was like, you're ruining this.
Keep on walking.
So yes. I don't even have to convince him anymore.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
To put it out there.
But her so fast with things. Like, we were 1 week into this trip, and she goes, I think we should look into doing this for a year. I'm like, pump the brakes a little bit. We're 1 week into this trip, and it's already, what if we did this for a year? So, but
good for you. Good for you. That's awesome. Is there any place where your dreams don't align right now? Do you have dreams that are heading in different directions?
I would say always. There are ones that don't. And I think that was something at first that was maybe a little more difficult because, with dreams, finances are involved. Mm-hmm. And it is, I think that when we started doing this, there were certain things that I would see on her dreams list. And I kind of think to myself, like, maybe, subconsciously or consciously, if I can steer clear of that one, because that doesn't necessarily align with the stuff that I want. I think that's where it started. And then where it's evolved to is, if it is really important to her and it's been on that list for a while, it's worth exploring what it is. And we've been able to kind of maneuver this together, and it's helped give a kind of menu of acceptance and excitement for the other person's passions.
I would also add to that, there's just over the years of us being together, it's been almost 12 years, and doing this dream stuff together, we've been able to see the fulfillment in the other person. So what may at one point be like, that's crazy, we're not going to move to a ranch and have a bunch of horses, that's beyond what his comfort zone is.
Yeah.
He's able to see how much better of a wife and a mother and a human I am when I'm fulfilled with that stuff. And so he's like, okay, let's explore this further. Let's see what else we can do. And I think that goes both ways, that seeing our partner, even though our dreams may be on complete opposite sides of the spectrum, seeing our partner fulfilled in something that we like, he could never give that to me as much as he loves me. He could never fulfill that piece of me himself. And so seeing what that does is, that's been really great too. Like for the book, for example, how much time and energy has gone into it. And we were just talking earlier, like, I will admit my selfishness, and there being points this year where I was like, I could resent you for not being fully present as much as he could have been. But I know that this is a lifelong dream, and I know that it's going to only expand him and us. And because of that, he's also, I think, supporting my dreams a lot more as well. Like, I think it just goes hand in hand. Like, you're going to grow apart, but if you can support each other.
We'll have parts of us that can stay separate, right? But the other person can still support that, I think is kind of the thing that, every relationship evolves. I feel like we're at a place now that we feel really good with that.
How often do you revisit dreams or bring up the conversation? And do you hang up lists of dreams? Like, how do you keep this top of mind?
The girls have, Elin has a list of dreams in her room.
So 5 and 3 are the ages now. So 5-year-old has a list of dreams that are in her room. The 3-year-old, it was just like
all of the 5-year-old's dreams are her dreams.
They did it together. So when Elin says something, he said the same thing, right?
We have them separately. Like I have a different dreams list in 5 different journals. You have yours.
Mine's just a living document that's, Google Docs that just is on my phone or my computer that I can always add to.
And we honestly revisit it probably once or twice a year. And now it's like, when we look at the dreams list, we're like, oh, we did that and we did that. Yeah. It's not as much of a, I think at first it was, we're going to check off these dreams, and now we're just living in alignment with those.
Yeah. And it's also like, we kind of understand the areas that are on somebody. So, the big ones for the year, like for me, the book this year, it was an ongoing conversation about the book, but we both had an understanding of like, that was the big thing on my list that, was going to get done this year outside of the travel ones and other stuff.
What's the big idea for the book, Dane? What do you hope people get from this?
So she's urged me for a long time to do something like that. And I have always in my mind, on my dreams list, it just said, write a book. And, I'd always kind of thought like later when I'm maybe retired or something else, that's when I'll have time for that. And I think it was a couple different things, but seeing Justin go through the process was helping me to understand it's something I could do now. COVID also was a driver of it. And the way that had an impact, I think, was seeing the dreams culture and how it really was the glue to my organization during a really tumultuous time when, people were struggling and my people were thriving. And I looked at that as this concept has a lot more legs and a lot more people should see it and hear it. And that's something that's really important to me. So I want to write it and get it out there. And so through COVID, I kind of recognized that there was a place for this and a need for this now. And it was something that I would be strenuous to get done, but I could make it happen while also, running my business.
I would like to add too, that watching Dane go through the shift, like when COVID first hit and their whole organization was just like shifting, like there was just nobody knew exactly how to respond. I saw him at the most stressed place that he's ever been. And I think that most people that have met Dane would agree that he is phenomenally dynamic. Like, and I don't know if he fully can grasp how like there's just an energy about him, like he just emanates love. And so seeing him in that spot was really tough. And I feel like the book, like actually diving into, okay, so how do we create this dream life, or how do people live a life of their dreams, completely shifted that. Like it was the thing that pulled him through that tough time, was not just how are we living our dreams, but like how could he share that with other people? It gave a different purpose, a new level of his work. Like it was just so cool to see.
Wow. And a little detail she left out. She saw me in this tough moment. What she said to me was, this is after months of COVID. I think this was in July. She goes, "Hey, I want to talk to you. You've been really being a pretty big bitch lately. And I think you need to go do some manly things." So I've already talked to Justin Donald, and he's going to join you in Montana, so you guys can go do some guy things.
That's great.
So she like booked it, and I went, and it just so happened that was the weekend where Justin was launching a lot of his stuff, and so that the conversation.
Wow.
So there was a lot of things that kind of came together.
So there's a couple of things I want to call attention to, which I think are great. Number one, in reverse, you and Justin going out and hanging out is what Front Row Dads is built on. This idea of having meaningful conversations, time together, shoulder to shoulder, bonding, doing things together, but always fueled by incredible conversation. And we're talking about Justin Donald, guys, lifestyle investor, book just killed it. Wall Street Journal bestseller. He's in my band. He's a Front Row Dad. He's one of our top recruiters for the group and just a great all around guy. So props to you, Brooke, for helping get that going. That's an amazing gift for a spouse to give to another when they know that they might need a little bit of that. And that just kicking somebody when they're down in hopes that they'll pull themselves up is not always the best strategy. Although I have done it to others where, somebody's not at their best and you kind of take a shot at them because they're not at their best. I've done that many times to Tatiana and, always look back with regret on those types of moments. But where we can lift people up, I think is really a great thing. Also, something, Brooke, that you were talking about there is like, when you're, Dane, you going through this difficult time with your business when COVID was hitting, got me thinking about something I shared today on social. And I'm going to connect a few dots here. So we're 1 week away as we record this from the launch of Dan Sullivan attending a Front Row Dads Summit. He wrote a book called Who Not How, and it's all about the right people as part of your organization. And one of the things that he talks about is that when you're really frustrated or you're procrastinating on things, or things are hard or they're sticky, that they're great teaching moments. There's something to be learned from that. And what I gathered from that in hearing about how this procrastination and this energy that gets stuck, I realized that when I'm not good at work, I'm not good at home. That I have a very hard time flipping the switch, struggling at work, and then all of a sudden just being amazingly on for my kids. I want to say that I can do that. I struggle with that. I usually walk out and if my energy is low at work, my energy is low at home. And I've recognized that I'm quicker with my kids. I mean, in fact, Ocean, tapped me on the back yesterday and he was like, and again, Ocean's 6, and he tapped me on the back and he says, "Papa, was it a hard day? Were you stressed at work?" And he started rubbing my shoulders in his tiny little hands that could barely do any massaging, just squeezing my shoulders. "Papa, was it a hard day? Were you frustrated?" And I could tell he could sense it all over me. And, I think that you bringing that up about Dane going through that difficult time and how work relates to family life. I mean, that's why we're having this event next week for Business Evolution. Is the whole thing is to design a business that fuels your family and doesn't deliver dad home as a piece of crap to his family with nothing left in the tank and totally beat down. And right. Because it's very, very hard on the family when that happens. And it's inevitable that it will happen because we're not superhumans and we go through seasons of life. But how you both just articulated with great transparency, great love for each other, how you navigated that time is really cool. So props to both of you for making it through there and doing it in a way that it was really cool. Dane, you getting time, and, Brooke, sometimes you got to call him out a little bit, and that's all right. Right. And so it's all good.
I said, if she wants to call me out, as long as she follows it up with, so I booked you a trip.
What Dean didn't include into that list, my planning is impeccable. And I was looking online at all of these different, I wanted him to be able to go ride some horses, shoot some guns, do some masculine things. And I ended up booking them at this 5-star
spa.
Yes.
Spa in Montana.
Having wine tasting.
How are your nails, Dane? Are they still manicured?
It is an amazing resort in Montana. And it's the only place I've ever heard of in the US where it's all the wine is included. And she's sending Justin and I there. And so the first night, Justin sets up a wine tasting with sommelier that's there. And so she's like, how's it going? I was like, well, we're not really.
You're drinking Camus out of your left hand and shooting a skeet out of your right hand.
Yeah. It was great though.
Yeah, he came back.
Cool.
That was amazing.
And I came back from it and said, hey, Justin recommended this. I think with the book of, what do you, and I was very up in the air. And I said, what do you think? And without hesitation, she was like, yes, you need to do it. And I was like,
that's cool.
It's going to take, time, resources, everything. And she's like, you need to do it. Yes. And I was like, all right.
So when's this book finally drop?
September 28th.
Nice, man.
I'm not sure when this is dropping, but it might be out already. And we're in the final stages. All the stuff on my to-do list for it is done. So it feels fantastic.
Awesome. We will likely release this leading up to that date. So can people pre-order prior to?
Yeah, pre-orders live.
Awesome.
Hey, right?
Yep. And so I think just thedreammachinebook.com is where people can go to pre-order.
It's really cool, guys. I'm thrilled to read the book, and I can't wait to see its impact in the world. I remember, for those of you who don't know, Dane and I met, as many of my friends, we had met through the world of vector marketing and Cutco. And that was where we initially became friends. And I remember when Matthew Kelly came in and he did some of his dream stuff with the group, it really stuck with me. And it really was my first exposure to how powerful dreams can be. And it makes me so excited to know, Dane, that you've now brought your DNA to this project, your process, and you've been so successful in business and through my lens, also as a family man. I mean, I'm just saying that because I see Brooke and I see how amazing she is. And then I just have to know that you're doing something right at home because of how great Brooke is, and also how beautiful your girls are and how bright they are. And they must just feel so safe and loved at home. And, and through those dreams of what's possible into our future. And I want to say this too, and I don't want to take this show in a totally radically different direction, but within our group today, there was a lot of conversation about the future of America. That was a conversation that got sparked, and it got really involved really quickly because that's a hot topic right now, clearly for so many. And one of the things that, that conversation can go in a couple different directions. And one of them is, how can you protect yourself, your finances, your home? If things are feel a little unstable, what do you need to do to safeguard things? And another perspective on that is there's never been a better time, never been a more important time in the world than it is right now to have big dreams. There's never been a more important time to be clear about what you want to see happen moving forward, especially if you don't like what's happening in the moment. So rather than running and hiding and just covering your head and assuming the fetal position because you don't like what's happening, I think now more than ever, for business owners, for people who are involved in their communities, for people that are leading families at home, whether they're men or women or anybody, that now is the time to be dreaming up a new and better future for yourself, and starting at home. That's where all global change occurs. You don't like what's happening in the world, start modeling more of what you do like in your home, and then start collaborating with some neighbors and friends. And then that ripple will then, continue out. If it's a good idea, if it's a healthy idea, if it's a regenerative idea, if it's a sustainable idea, those are so important. So I think your book is hitting our community, Dane, at the right time. I think it's hitting the world at the right time. I'm super grateful for it. And one more, I want to say plug to the guys who are listening to this that are members of Front Row Dads. Next month, as we're recording this, so in October, we have our live event that we have twice a year. And Dane, I'm thrilled that you're going to be able to share some of this with the guys.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that.
We have our biggest event ever at a retreat. So this is the most guys that we've ever had in a room. And I'm really excited for you to have an impact on their families. And it's like fun to think about what dreams they're going to have at this event. It's fun to think about the conversations they'll be able to bring back home, right? The questions and the dialogue and the frameworks and the examples that I know are going to be sprouted there. It's going to be really cool. So thank you, Dane, for all your hard work. And Brooke, thanks for being on the show today and being part of this conversation. And just
be a part of the conversation.
This is so awesome, guys.
You were gonna end up being instead of having a session with Elisa, we were like, we're just gonna have a session here.
Well, awesome. I forgot to order him a sandwich at Starbucks, and it went into this whole thing.
I said, well, the Front Row Dads community.
We said we have to get along for this podcast, so we need to eat something else.
That's really cool. Guys, anything that you want to say? You can take as long as you want, by the way, but I want to give you a chance to make any comment about anything about the book or your family or dreams or anything that we just didn't cover today. Open space for either of you.
I just want to say, I am really grateful that you included me in this. I think the biggest shift or the biggest benefit to the dreams culture that we've seen with other people doing it is when they involve their spouses and families. Yeah. And the book is mostly focused for business, and I know he's going to speak to the Front Row Dads, but when we have invited spouses to come do the dreams workshops, and I do it every time, it has been the number one game changer. We can dream on our own all day, but when they sit together and say wow, and a lot of them didn't know that each other had these dreams, or how can we build this together? And it gives empowerment in a different way. It has for us. So I think that's really important. And I'm really grateful that you were able to see the importance of that.
Yeah. And on that, I think the book talks, as she mentioned, it is geared more towards how do you put this into your business or the teams that you lead or whatever the case is. But when I talk with the Front Row Dads, we're going to do some of the list creation, the dream storming process. And then there's such a cool opportunity for somebody to take kind of the principles of it. And just like I've taken Matthew Kelly's stuff and put my own flavor and my own DNA and my own, here's how I want to do it. Somebody can take the concepts pretty simply and then go apply them at work and at home and with their spouse. And I've never had a negative conversation with anybody around dreams, right? It's always an uplifting conversation, it takes somebody from the, focus of right now and whatever they're dealing with and pulls their head up to think about, well, yeah, the way I'm feeling right now isn't the way I should be feeling in 6 months or 12 months or, anything is possible in that. So I'm excited to continue to share the dreams concept and really glad that you were able to have both of us on.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And Dane, one more question. Do you have any advice for people after they hear this about, going home and bringing it up to their spouse or their kids? Any do's or don'ts, regardless of what age their kids are or where they're at in their marriage? Any thoughts?
You look like you had some. Okay. All right. I wasn't sure.
I can always add, but
when it comes to the language around it, I think the reason that I use dreams instead of goals or bucket list, I think bucket list is a later in life and not a today thing. I think goals, people typically tend to set things too small and think too logically. And so the idea of dreams is, hey, have some fun with it. And so I think with kids, there's not a lot of prompting that's needed. They're the best at that, of any age group is a kid. I think with spouses, when somebody goes and does this on their own in a work setting and then comes home and there's potential to bombard your spouse and be like, hey, I've got this list of 150 things I want to do. I want to travel here. I want to do. The other person sometimes is like, wait, where did this come from? What's happening? And so I think anytime somebody can go through that list creation with their spouse, I think is such a game changer. I've been working with Amber. I know you're familiar with her. The whole Front Row Dads community is familiar with Amber Vilhauer and her team at NGNG. But she brought up the idea as one of the giveaways for the book, the purchases, was running a free online dreamstorming session. So we're going to be doing that mid-October, and I'm excited about people having the ability to bring their spouses to that.
That's awesome.
Also, Dane, you had an experience with your mom being hesitant.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be a good story of just because we've always done them together. So
yeah,
I would definitely resonate with the idea of like coming home and, hey, I have all these dreams. And we were talking earlier too about like him supporting my dreams was really important because as a stay-at-home mom, I see him, and it was a choice that we both made, but I see him like doing these amazing things. He's writing his book. He's having crazy, awesome results with work. And there are days that I am so exhausted that if he came home and he was like, hey, we're going to do all this stuff, I wouldn't be able to get to that level of energy and excitement. And so I definitely resonate with not being able to match that unless you're going through it together. However, we had an experience where his mom, he wanted to do it with his mom so bad and get her to dream, and maybe you can speak.
Yeah, it was, she's in her 60s. And so taking her through the process, it took so much more priming than, what I'm used to. And it was,
and she didn't want to do it at first, but she was open to it.
Yeah. And she's a pretty optimistic person, but It was difficult for her in her 60s to see life changing that drastically. Right. So it was, hey, where do you want to go in the world? And she'd be like, well, Germany, and then she'd rattle off all these reasons it can't happen. I'm a teacher. I know my income, that costs a lot. And so it was a lot of, okay, that as, we'd go back to the beginning and say, again, time, money, none of that matters. We're just going to have some fun. And then finally she started to kind of loosen up and go with it. But it was, Germany was a big thing on our list. And then Cutco, I want to say 2 years later, the year after, announced company trips to Germany. Right. And so it gave me an opportunity, knowing her list, to say, hey, do you want to come help with the kids, come to Germany and cross it off your list? And it was, it's one of those weird things where you put it out there in the universe. You don't know how it's going to happen. And it worked perfectly for us. We were happy to spend the money on it because it changed and, improved our vacation and was able to cross something off her list too.
And she was really excited to do the list at first. Yeah. I think she was doing it because Dane was so excited. But even just the few things that then she was able to do totally shifted. Now she's like all in on the dream stuff too.
That's cool.
So it just took the first couple to get her to say, okay,
that's great.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I'm so glad that you just shared that last story, guys, because it's easy to say, hey, where are your dreams as a couple? And what do you do for your kids? Oh, by the way, your business. And then, but we didn't get to the place in that, ranting that led us to like, what about your parents? Like sometimes we forget like our mom and dad, like you think like somehow they might have to have it all just figured out, or they should be asking us about our dreams. You still live that entitled child parent relationship, but it's like, no, at some point you can be inspiring them with deep questions. And like, it makes me wonder, like, when's the last time I really asked my mom and my dad, like, what are you both dreaming about? And that's an important question to be asking all the time. And I get how sometimes you could get some pushback on that, because especially if you've tried to live out some dreams and like maybe some of them didn't go the way that you planned, you might be like, dreaming sucks because they never come true, or whatever. It's easy to see how somebody could get jaded. But then, you get a win every now and then, like, hey, you ask what the dream is, Germany, all of a sudden there's a bridge being built, a dot being connected, and you can make it happen. And that's just awesome to hear, man. So, wow. I love it, guys. I'm excited. Dane, where do they go to get the book?
So they can go either my website at daneespegard.com or thedreammachinebook.com.
Okay. Thedreammachinebook.com. Cool.
Yep.
Also available on Amazon and probably other places where you can find it. Guys, check it out. Also, if you enjoyed this episode, as we always say, if you write a review for the Front Row Dad podcast and you mention Dane in this episode, screenshot it, send it to us at info@frontrowdads.com. We'll buy you a copy of Dane's book and send it your way. So guys, thanks for being my guest on the show today. And I look forward to seeing you guys in person sometime. I look forward to seeing the Dreams stream. I look forward to seeing more pictures and videos down the road. And Dane, I look forward to next month with you, buddy.
She'll be coming in that weekend after too. So yeah. We'll hopefully get some time. Thanks a lot.
How's your volleyball game, Brooke? Do you like to play?
No. Don't throw a ball at my face.
Do you like coffee? Because we could bring some coffee. We have killer tacos around here.
Yes. Right, I will be the best. I'm not even cheerleader. I will be the best hanger-outer that you guys have.
Killer. All right, guys. Much love, and we'll talk soon.
Gentlemen, thanks for listening to the show today. 2 actions to take from here. First, implement one thing that you learned from the interview. And number 2, share this episode with somebody who values being a family man with a business. If you're enjoying the Front Row Dad podcast, the biggest thanks we ever get are honest reviews. So thank you for your feedback in advance. We read all of them. And if you want to learn more about the Brotherhood, which is our private community of 200 men from 6 different countries, visit frontrowdads.com for more info. If you're wondering what the hell the Brotherhood is all about, I'll leave you with some real feedback from guys who are active members and why they are part of our crew. Thanks again for listening to the show, and I'll catch you on the next episode.
You had this passion for wanting to find a way to make you a better parent and a better husband, just better in general. And so you developed this community of like-minded men that aspire to be better and aspire to put family first and business second. And so to me, there's no greater place I'd rather be. You know, people ask me all the time, like, if I could only pick one group, mastermind, organization, whatever to be part of besides my own, it's always yours. And that's it. And by the way, part of that has to do with you and the leader you are and the way that you treat people and how you show up and the level of preparation that you have and the quality and amount of value that you offer. And then part of it's in the community that's been assembled and these unbelievable like-minded men that show up willing and ready to serve and to give and to share. And so to me, there's no better place that I can be spending my time. I look at 2 different things that we can be doing with our time. One of them is growing relationships and starting first with the most important relationships. And the other one is growing our financial acumen and our wealth to be able to do the things that we want to do and have impact and be able to spend time with the people that we value most by buying that time back. So to me, what you do and what I do is a great marriage of what I think is most important. And I would also throw in there that health is, the other component of that. And I feel like the community that you've built, that each of us have built, is also centered around that. Because you talk about being a great husband, parent, that's going to come from taking care of yourself and making sure that you have the energy to be able to serve. And I do the same thing on a wealth standpoint, because wealth to me is not just about money. It's actually about having the time and the space to have your personal health. I would take having great health over no money any day of the week, rather than the inverse of that, having a lot of money but no health. So to me, those are like the 3 most important components. And to me, we're always merging those 3 in the things that we each do. And so I think that's why there's a lot of crossover of, members. That's why what you do resonates so much with me. What I do resonates so much with you. I joined as a lifetime member for that small little window where you offered it. I'm like, I'm in, because I know if I'm going to commit my time anywhere, this is it, because it makes me a better man, makes me a better husband, makes me a better father. It encourages me to really step up my peer group with other like-minded men so that I can be on mission, on point with other people that will hold me accountable at the highest level.
John and I met a year and a half ago with the launch of my first book. And as we were going through the interview, I began to ask him questions about the Brotherhood, and it resonated within me that a community community of like-minded, like-hearted men that wanted to win, as he was just saying, at business and in life. And I'd reverse that. I want to win as a dad, and then I'd also love to be successful in business, because I feel like if I don't get the dad right, who cares what I did in business? That's my legacy. That's what lives beyond me. So to tribe up with a bunch of dudes going in the same direction with the pillars that are in place and the way that not only are you encouraged, compelled, you're chided, you're laughed with, but you get to pace yourself, but you can get around a band of dudes that you can trust, you can share with, you can grow with. And just recently completed a time with these guys. We did a fast at the start of the new year. Every day I would tune in to the little app where we were sharing comments, and I was so impressed how you could see guys that were further down the road and things like this, guys that were just starting, and the camaraderie, the encouragement. So for myself, this was a total fit, and I would encourage any dude that's looking for a place where you can feel connected with a band of guys wanting to go in the same direction. Front Row Dads is for you.